Neon Verge glittered on the desert rim like a fractured jewel, a city of stark dichotomies, where gleaming skyscrapers cast long shadows over crumbling slums, rusted factories, and streets paved with broken promises. Once a titan of industry and innovation, it had slumped into a hollow shell. Its night surrendered to the Asphalt Vipers, a street racing gang that turned its arteries into a neon-lit slaughterhouse. Their tricked-out machines roared through the city like feral beasts, leaving carnage in their wake. A bodega reducer ashed by a drifting wreck, a schoolteacher paralyzed in a hit-and-run, a father crushed shielding his daughter from a Viper's tires, a teenage dreamer snuffed out in a fiery crash. Led by 𝐍𝐸, a wiry man with a shaved head and a grin that promised violence, the Vipers weren't just thrill-seekers. They were a sprawling criminal empire, fueled by rigged bets, a chop shop churning out stolen cars, and a web of corruption that entangled cops, councilmen, and shadowy figures beyond Neon Verge borders. The police, gutted by budget cuts and crippled by payoffs, chased phantoms while the city bled out, its citizens cowering or complicit. Keanu rode into town on a dusty Tuesday evening, his black Kawasaki Ninja slicing through the twilight's oily haze. His leather jacket bore the scars of 1,000 roads, its creases telling tales of storms and sunsets. His dark hair was tangled from the wind, and his eyes held a quiet inferno, a storm held in check by an iron will. He wasn't a lawman, a vigilante, or a man with a badge, just a wanderer who'd caught Neon Verge death knell in the murmurs of truck stops and the static of late-night AM radio. At the Starlight Motel, a neon sign flickered and buzzed as he checked in. Maria, the clerk, her face a roadmap of hard years and sleepless nights, handed him a key with a smoker's rasp. "Vipers race tonight. Stay off the streets, mister, or you're just another smear on the blacktop." Keanu nodded, his voice a low, steady rumble. "Good to know." He slipped her a crumpled 20 and headed to his room, but his boots itched for the pavement, his soul restless with purpose. A faded letter tucked in his jacket had summoned him here, a relic from a past he rarely spoke of. It was from KeanuReeves, a man who would be more than a friend, a brother forged in the crucible of shared miles and shared silences. They'd met a decade ago on a desolate stretch of desert highway, Keanu's by coughing its last, Danny rolling up in a battered pickup with a toolbox and a lopsided grin. "You're a lone rider, John," Danny had said, wrenching the engine back to life. "But even riders need an anchor sometimes." Danny had found his in Neon Verge, opening Haven Auto to pull kids from the streets, teaching them the hum of engines over the lure gangs. The letter, mailed weeks before his death, was a desperate scroll inked with urgency. "They're gutting this place, John. Races every night, blood every morning. Cops are bought, and I'm digging too deep. If I go down, you're my last shot." Danny's hit-and-run was no accident. Keanu could smell the Viper's venom on it, a wound that echoed a deeper loss from years past, a brother taken by a drunk driver on a rain-slick road. This was for Danny, for that ghost, for a city on its knees. That night, the industrial district pulsed with the Viper's chaos. In a sprawling lot ring by decaying warehouses, their cars gleamed under makeshift floodlights, neon-painted Supras, Chargers, Civics, and a monstrous GTR, all marred beyond the edge of reason. 𝐍𝐸 stood atop a rusted shipping container, his voice a jagged blade cutting through the din. "Tonight's a warm-up, freaks. Friday's the real deal, 50 grand and the crown of this cesspool. Let's torch it to the ground." The crowd, race of hopefuls, bookies, junkies, drones streaming the madness live, roared in approval. Keanu watched from the shadows, his bike propped beside him, his mind a steel trap cataloging the predators. 𝐍𝐸, all rage and swagger. Tara, his icy lieutenant with a silver Supra that purred lethality. Jinx, the wiry mechanic whose genius defied physics. Spike, a nitrous-addicted loose cannon with wild eyes. Lena, a hooded figure running bets on a tablet, laundering their blood money. And Councilman Vickers, a pudgy man in a cheap suit clutching a briefcase, the Viper's shield in City Hall. Another threat loomed on the horizon. Los Diablos, a Southside gang rolling up in matte black Mustangs and Skylines, their engines snarling a challenge. Their leader, Mateo, a scarred man with a gold tooth and a predator's smirk, locked eyes with 𝐍𝐸. "Your grip slipping. Amigo, we're here to feast on your corpse." 𝐍𝐸 spat back. "Try it, and you're roadkill." The air crackled with hostility, two wolves circling the same prey. Keanu's gaze shifted to a kid, 16. Clutching a wad of cash, muttering to a friend, "Dad's chemo's overdue. Gotta win tonight." Then he spotted Rosa, a wiry woman in a grease-stained jumpsuit, slipping through the crowd with a flyer, "Citizens Against Vipers." A resistance was stirring, fragile but fierce. Keanu stepped into the fray, approaching Tara as she tuned her car. "Nice setup," he said, his tone calm as a still lake. She smirked, wiping grease from her hands. "Cop or drifter?" "Just a guy who likes fast rides," he replied. She laughed, sharp and short. "You got wheels." He nodded at his bike. "A bike? You're certifiable." "All right, stranger, you're in. Don't ruin my night." Razor swaggered over, his grin feral. "New blood, huh? Don't expect a pat on the back." Keanu met his gaze, unflinching. "Don't want one." The race was a 5-mile death sprint through Neon Verge guts, past abandoned factories, under graffiti-streaked overpasses, over rusted train tracks. Keanu rode low, his bike a black streak against their garish machines. Tara surged ahead with nitrous, her super screaming. Razor tried to muscle him off the road, his charger snarling. But Keanu's calm was his weapon. He swerved at the last second, letting Razor's ego spin him into a guardrail, and nipped Tara at the finish line by a hair. The crowd lost its mind, cheers echoing off the concrete. "You're damn good," Tara said, catching her breath as he pulled off his helmet. "Name?" "John," he replied, his voice even. Razor stormed over, spitting curses. "Beginner's luck. You want to run with the Vipers? Earn it, punk." Keanu nodded. "Tell me how." Over the next week, Keanu burrowed deep into their world. He raced their brutal gauntlets, oil-slicked straights, hairpin turns over train crossings, blind drops off crumbling embankments, winning grudging respect with every finish. He fixed Jinx's busted turbo with a quiet expertise that made a mechanic mutter, "You're wasted on that bike, man," and listened as Razor bragged about their operation, a chop shop hidden in an old steel mill, a roster of cops on the take, Vickers greasing their wheels with council votes, Lena tying their cash to a cartel across the border. Keanu stayed silent, his mind cataloging every word, every weakness. He met Maria's son, Lewis, a lanky teen with a Viper tattoo and a chip on his shoulder, loitering outside the motel. Showing him Danny's letter, Keanu said, "They killed your uncle. You in or out?" Lewis's bravado crumbled. He nodded, his voice low. "In." At Haven Auto, Keanu met Carla, Danny's widow, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute as she scrubbed grease from her hands. "He always said you'd come if it got bad enough," she told him, voice trembling. "Make it mean something, John." Then there was Eli, a grizzled ex-racer with a limp and a vendetta. He cornered Keanu at Carla's diner, his voice rough as gravel. "Vipers took my leg in a wreck 5 years back. Spike ran me off the road." Razor laughed it off. "I've been waiting for someone like you." Eli knew the Vipers' playbook, their hideouts, their habits. He'd been one of them once, before they discarded him. "I'll help you burn them down," he said. Keanu nodded. "Stay sharp." Rosa, the resistance leader, approached him too, her flyer creased from clutching it. "We're done hiding. Blockades, sabotage, whatever it takes. You with us." Keanu met her gaze. "I'll do it my way, but we're on the same side." The tipping point came when Spike, high on nitrous and something stronger, crashed a race downtown. His car spun into a bus stop, killing a mother and her toddler, a senseless tragedy that lit Neon Verge with vigils and rage. Rosa's group marched, chaining themselves to streetlights. The papers screamed for justice, but Razor just laughed at the next meet, perched on his container like a vulture. "We get weeded out. That's life in the fast lane." Keanu's hands clenched into fists, but his face remained a mask of ice. That night, he called Detective Cruz, a weathered cop Danny had trusted, from a payphone outside a gas station. "They're a plague," Keanu said, his voice low and hard. "I'll get you the evidence to bury them." Cruz sighed, his tone weary but resolute. "You're a lunatic, but I've got your back." Keanu moved like a ghost through their world. He slipped a tracker onto Tara's Supra, feeding Cruz real-time routes of their races and deals. He sabotaged Jinx's prized GTR, Razor's ride for the big race, rigging it with tampered spark plugs while Jinx was distracted arguing with Spike. He tailed Lena one night, watching her meet a cartel enforcer in a back alley, exchanging cash for a brick of cocaine, snapping photos with a burner phone he'd picked up at a pawn shop. He broke into that chop shop under cover of darkness, navigating a maze of rusted beams and oily floors, finding a stash of VINs and a ledger that tied Vickers to 𝐍𝐸𝐿𝐿 and the cartel in a freeway dance of greed. Lewis, shaky but determined, slipped a recording device into Razor's jacket during a meet, catching him boasting about bribing a precinct captain and Vickers pushing a zoning law to hide their operations. Rosa's crew escalated too. They torched a Viper part stash in the East District, drawing attention and forcing Razor to tighten his grip. But the Vipers weren't blind. Tara caught Keanu lingering near her car one night, her wrench tapping her palm rhythmically. "You're too quiet, John," she said, her eyes narrowing. "You're not just here to race, are you?" He shrugged, his tone casual, just like the rush. She studied him, suspicion flickering, but let it drop. Her first mistake. Spike, paranoid and wired, tried to jump him outside a dive bar, swinging a tire iron with a wild yell. Keanu dodged with fluid grace, twisted Spike's arm until it cracked, and left him groaning in the date. "Stay out of my way," he said, walking off into the night. Jinx, growing jealous of Keanu's mechanical prowess, started whispering to Razor. "He's too good, too clean. Something's off." Vickers upped the ante at the next meet, his voice oily as he addressed the crowd from a makeshift stage. "Friday's a purge race. 10 miles, $100,000 pot. Winner takes all. Time to clean out the trash." Razor grinned, his eyes glinting with malice. 𝐍𝐸𝐿𝐿 entered, Mateo smirking at Keanu, and Jinx's betrayal crystallized. He slipped Razor a note. "John's a rat." Razor acted fast, snatching Lewis from the motel parking lot that night, dragging him to a warehouse on the city's edge. Maria found Keanu at Haven Auto, tears streaming as she clutched his arm. "They took my boy. Razor's gonna kill him." "Please, John." Keanu's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed steady. "I'll get him back." He grabbed a crowbar, checked his bike, and rode out, Eli trailing in his pickup with a shotgun. "I know that place," Eli said. "It's a death trap." The warehouse was a fortress. Spike and a squad of 𝐍𝐸𝐿𝐿's thugs guarded it, armed with bats and pistols. Keanu slipped in through a shattered skylight, dropping silently onto a catwalk above the chaos. Below, Lewis was tied to a chair, blood dripping from a split lip as Razor paced, snarling. "Your pal John's a dead man, kid." Keanu moved like a shadow, taking out the first thug with a swift strike to the temple, the second with a crowbar to the knee, a third Razor gun, but Eli's shotgun roared from a side door, dropping him. Spike charged, swinging a chain with a manic grin. Keanu ducked, grabbed the chain mid-swing, and yanked Spike into a stack of crates, knocking him cold. Razor spun, drawing a knife, but Keanu was faster. He disarmed it with a twist, slamming him to the concrete. "You're done," Keanu said, cutting Lewis free. The kid stumbled but growled. "Let's finish this bastard." Friday's championship race loomed like a storm, a 10-mile death run through Neon Verge's heart, $100,000 on the line, drones streaming it to a bloodthirsty underground. Vickers watched from a VIP tent, sipping bourbon, Rosa's resistant prepared barricades and spike strips. 𝐍𝐸𝐿𝐿's rolled in, their engines a low growl. Keanu entered, his bike gleaming under floodlights. "Last ride with us, John?" Tara asked, her voice softer, almost regretful. "Maybe," he said, meeting her gaze. The flag dropped, engine screamed, tires smoked, neon streaks lit the night. Keanu hung back, letting Razor and Mateo surge ahead, their cars battling for dominance. Rosa's crew struck at mile 4, Molotovs flared, barricades slowed 𝐍𝐸𝐿𝐿's, forcing Mateo's lieutenants to spin out. At mile 7, Eli rammed a Viper scout with his truck, clearing a path. Mile 9, Cruz's team descended. Sirens wailed, helicopters buzzed, SWAT vans roared in, blocking escapes. Razor's GTR stalled mid-run. Tara's Supra spun out on a spike strip. Jinx's Civic flipped into a ditch. Spike's ride smashed into a dumpster. Mateo tried to ram through a barricade, but his Skyline caught fire. Lena bolted with her tablet, but Lewis tackled her, wrenching it free. Vickers scrambled from his tent, but Cruz caught him, slamming cuffs on his wrists. "Game over, councilman," Cruz barked. Razor, cuffed and wild-eyed, lunged at Keanu as cops dragged him away. "You're a dead man. You hear me?" Keanu crouched to his level, voice cold as Arctic wind. "You built this grave. I just shoveled the date." The Vipers' empire crumbled. 𝐍𝐨𝐭𝐢𝐜𝐞 scattered, their leaders nabbed in the chaos. The lot fell silent. The city exhaled, roasters' flyers fluttering in the breeze as dawn crept over the horizon. Next morning, Keanu met Cruz at Carla's diner, the smell of coffee and grease stick in the air. "You're a damn enigma," Cruz said, sliding him a mug. "No record, no past, just John. Why'd you do it?" Keanu stared out the window. Watching kids kick a ball on a street no longer a racetrack, their laughter a faint echo of a brother lost long ago to a reckless wheel. "Had a family once," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Danny was the closest I got after. Couldn't let him down." He left a 50 on the counter for Maria, hugged Lewis, now apprentice at Haven Auto with Carla's blessing, and nodded to Eli, who tipped his cap. "You ever need a clue, John, you know where to find me." Keanu climbed onto his bike, the engine purring as he rode out, Neon Verge basking in a fragile new piece under a golden sunrise, its streets finally still.